regular viewers or listeners of this channel might know that I've been doing report cards, and I did first quarter Atlantic League, first quarter Frontier League, first quarter Pioneer League. Did not get to the American Association. That's on me. Kind of underestimated how deep into the year we were. So we're going to jump right to giving them the first shot second quarter report cards. That's what we're doing here. I don't want to just do report cards. I got some other videos coming here. It doesn't matter. Semantics. I tell you that first. Secondly, I'm looking for some feedback because it's been a big day. First of all, I realized that when making ramen, I have a special bowl to make ramen in. Don't deal with it. If you're not watching, if you're just listening, you're missing out. It's a thing. I figured out, I always like to doctor up the seasoning that you put in because I'm a fancy man with fancy plans. And I'm doing lots of fancy things here in Fancyland. And I, for the first time, put some curry powder in, and it rips. All of that to say, multiple use cases for adult diapers later tonight at the York Revolution game. Beyond that, this video, if you're viewing it, the pod won't be that much different. But the video, you'll notice it's a little different. Went for a different vibe, trying something different. Let me know. Could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. Who's to say? My dog is currently pulling on my paw, on my hand with his paw. I don't have paws, I have hands. I'm a man, fancy man, as referenced earlier. Let's get to this disastrous video, shall we? Could be great. Report card time. Get serious. We're going to start and we're going to end this series of report cards with good news. So we'll start at the top of the East Division here, talking about the Lake Country Dockhounds. They got a B after a 14-11 first quarter, a 16-9 second quarter, pushed the Dockhounds to a 30-20 start, a division lead, and a comfortable gap above the playoff cut line. The offense is actually kind of below average in scoring, despite most of the lineup delivering at an above average clip. The assumption is the runs will come, especially with the help of new addition Emmanuel Vargas, great name, I think I nailed it, who has taken to the whole Indy ball thing really quick, like he was born for it. The rotation's being led by Luke Hansel, Chris Jefferson, Brett Conine. The bullpen's about 6 dudes that are just taking souls right now. Eric Torres, Robert Gesselman, Connor Fenlong. Pick your poison out there right now. The offense is good. The pitching is great. Lake Country isn't stealing headlines, but they are taking just about everything else. I'm giving their second quarter an A. I gave the Chicago Dogs a C+ in the first quarter after a terrible start, but a solid bounce back. The Dogs kept that momentum with a 14-11 second quarter, placing them about a full week above the playoff cut line. Good start for the American Association. The team hasn't dominated with like a run differential that's nearly 0, but Chicago has outperformed the majority of their competition in the East Division, which positions them, I'd say, well heading into the second half. In all, I think both the offense and the pitching haven't quite reached their full potential results-wise. Offensively, Kuziak, Teeter, Hopkins, Chance Sisco, they've impressed throughout the season. I particularly like how Chance Sisco's transition from the Atlantic to the American. I'm not sure, about how much being hit by pitches every day last season was affecting him, but I'm sure it's nice not to be. On the mound, the top of the rotation featuring Jeff Lindgren and John Baker has been solid, but not dominant. Jack Nedro, I got good eyes on the start of his there day. He's an interesting addition, yielding good results so far. Keone Cavaco, he's recently jumped in from the bullpen. The rotation needs depth to chase down Lake Country, but so far so good. And the same definitely goes for the bullpen. Jacob Delabio, he's backed up by J.C. Keys and a bunch of guys struggling for consistency. There's a lot of work left to do for the Dogs, and without doing it, they risk sliding down the standings rather than climbing. However, the results are the results, and the Dogs earn a B from me for the second quarter. Now, I smacked the Kane County Cougars with a D+ in the first quarter. After, first of all, it was an 11-14 start. It was bad. They won a championship. They come in with expectations. Anyway, lost their first 4 series of the season. Bad look. The team's late first quarter charge, though, carried into the second quarter for a while, but they've struggled to keep that momentum, laying them at 12-13 for the quarter, clinging to the East Division playoffs. I think they were at the end of the second quarter on the last spot. The Cougars are tossing 4 solid starters out there right now with a fantastic-looking Connor Ash. Cannot speak highly enough of him as their ace, supported by Jack Fox, Weston Muir, and Chris Mazza. Things, though, get a bit sketchier in the bullpen, where Jake Gazzo and Logan Neeson are really the only true high-leverage options I've seen so far, with Jake Stevenson showing some flashes when he finds the zone. The big 3 in the King County offense, Marcus Chu, Tripp Clark, and Todd Lott, are really strong. There's no arguing that. But things really thin out quite a bit as you move down that lineup card. The offense functions, but the lack of pop is really apparent. It goes cold for stretches, with the Cougars really trailing all but Gary in home runs. That's really tough. I feel like half this team has hit the injured list, so I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt to an extent as they continue to stabilize here, but they've earned a C from me for the second quarter. We're going south. We're going way south. because the Cleveland Railroaders were smacking teams in the mouth early and earned an A- with a 16-9 first quarter. The second quarter, a bit more of a rough ride than a railroad. I don't know what that was supposed to say. 11-14 is a tough look for the second quarter. So what is happening? Well, tough scheduling hasn't helped. Cleveland won 3 straight over Kansas City before dropping 3 right back to the Monarchs, then losing 5 of 6 against Lake Country. Tough schedule there. The offense is performing well despite struggling at home, at least compared to their wildly successful road splits. Unfortunately, regardless of their location, the pitching is struggling. Almost the entire lineup is performing at an above-average rate. Kyle Martin is having a massive year with 17 dingers. The group of Peterson, Altair, Sosa, Rivas, and Weiss, and they're just a headache to navigate as a pitcher. Not that I would know. I sucked at pitching, but the good pitchers are struggling too, so I would figure it's a headache. While Derek Kraft and Cade McCalls have served the rotation well, I would say Mike Shawarn's had some struggles. The rest of the stars really haven't fallen into place for the Railroaders. I'm not exaggerating when I say there's not a single pitcher I'd confidently pull from this bullpen in a high-leverage situation. Boy, that feels rough to say, but Theo McDowell's leading the group in ERA, and he still has more walks than innings pitched right now, so it is a tough look. Cleveland still looks like a playoff team with a championship-caliber offense, but without any serious upgrades to that pitching staff, that's all they can really hope to be, and that's been that way for a few years now. That was really exposed in the second quarter, so they're getting a D+ from me. How about a nice cold glass of milk after that Texas heat? It's so damn hot, milk was a bad choice, and the Milwaukee Milkmen struggled. I cracked myself up with the worst joke I've made in a while. That hurts. Milwaukee struggled to an 11-16 record and got a D+ in the first quarter, followed it up with a 10-17 second quarter. Yikes. Not helping is the fact that expectations were fairly high for this team. Despite struggling in 2024, we were all kind of ready for a bounce back. It's just shocking that this team won their second and third games of the second quarter and then didn't win back-to-back games since that. They now sit behind Kane County below the playoff cut line. The offense is competitive and above average many days, but they walk far too rarely for a team that's actually doing a pretty good job putting the bat to the ball. They got to get on base more. They're getting runners home once they're there. Eric Osberg, he's been playing out of his mind right now, and the rest of the top 2/3 of the lineup is competing well, but the bottom third is a wreck. In the rotation, Juan Diaz and Rajani Mesquita are performing well, and Chase Gearing looks like a potentially solid mid-rotation guy in development, but there's a definite lack of like a 4 and a 5 starter that's needed. That could be fine, but the bullpen is basically just Denny Bentley, Tanaj Thompson, and Matt Given now that he's out of the rotation, and it just hasn't really delivered as a full package. This team's gone from competing for championships to competing for a playoff spot. That trend is officially more than just a quick dip on the graph right now. It's looking like a longer-term issue. I've got to give Milwaukee a D for the second quarter. And then there is Gary. There's not much to say that hasn't already been said, so I'm not going to beat any dead horses here. Despite low expectations, Gary underperformed them with a 7-18 first quarter, backed up by a 7-18 second quarter. They got an F in the first quarter, and spoiler alert, it's another F in the second quarter. Offensively, I'll shout out the team's standout star, Jairus Richards, as well as Jake Gunther, Joe Suozzi, and Andres Noriega. Big Noriega fan. The rotation's actually pretty solid, with Jonathan Martinez transitioning from the pen, plus Peyton Long, Dawson Lane, Spencer Adams, Danny Oliveros even looking solid, keeping the Railcats in most games at this point, but they're a big reason why the run differential is so much better than last season. And that's not even to shortchange the bullpen. Denson Hull's good. Jacob Coates, Cody Reed, Nate Alexander, they've all been solid. DeMarcus Evans has been fantastic in some, I think 10 outings at this point. The pitching showing signs of legitimate improvement, but the offense has a massive way to go, and the team is, again, the first one out of contention. I just can't improve them past an F quite yet, though I do see signs of life. It's hard. Let's flip over to the West Division and start climbing back up here, starting with Winnipeg. After winning the West last season, the Goldeyes had a brutally slow start to the season, going 11-14 to start, earning a D+ in the first quarter. How'd the second quarter go? Well, they improved by a game? Yay! Scrapping with Lincoln at the bottom of the division is a tough scene for a team who has been really impressive in recent years. So what is wrong? Max Murphy's battling, Matt Warkentin is having a great season, but the rest of the lineup I would classify as below average, like 7 out of 9 guys. The offense is struggling, but I think the pitching's fall-off has caused much of the season's trouble. Jesse Galindo and Mitch Lamson are pitching well. Lamson's got like 70,000 complete games at this point. He just tosses innings through 10 the other day. What are we doing? But Tasker Strobel is a clear ace of this rotation. Lamson, yeah, by the way, I think he's been averaging like 6 2/3 per start. Anyway, random fun fact. In the bullpen, Ryder Yackle is dealing Ben Onishiko. I always mess that name up. It's a Y in the middle, my guy. It just throws me for a loop. The Gold Eyes pen just really doesn't have much beyond them, though, to fight late in games, and that's why they're dropping a lot of close ones. I'm not sure what else there is to say other than it is a D+ north of the border. This team has a lot to figure out offensively and on the pitching side. Moving back down stateside and moving up in the grading a little bit here, let's discuss the Lincoln Salt Dogs, because after a sluggish start, Lincoln finished the first quarter with a 10-15 record and a D- grade. Since then, Lincoln has improved their record by a couple of games in the second quarter and even pulled out of the West Division basement. The pitching is rough. Nate Blaine and Johnny Blake are being asked to lead a thin rotation, to put it lightly, and the bullpen lacks any serious high-leverage arms. Connor Langrel's putting in work, Jacob Roberts and Franny Kobos are working to hold their own, but the talent pool is just a little too shallow in that pitching staff right now. Drew Devine and Max Hewitt, they're the club's best batters. Haven't joined the roster in late May and late June respectively there, so good additions being made, but neither have a ton of pop, so relying on guys like Rolando Espinosa is commonplace here most of these games. There's a severe lack of depth here on basically any angle that you look at, but Lincoln is starting to get some things in place after a really concerning couple of years, and they've stopped the bleeding. They're fighting to turn some things around. It is an improvement for me. I'm bringing them up to a C- for the second quarter. Heading over to Fargo Moorhead now, where Chris Coast and the boys backed up a 14-11 B- first quarter with a 13-12 second quarter. While the records were similar, I do think some cracks began to show in the second quarter for the Redhawks. Fargo can chalk up really any measure of success this year to their pitching. Where Dylan Thomas and Juan Fernandez have led the way offensively, the rest of the lineup has been lagging way too far behind to really capitalize regularly. On the flip side, though, Jake Dykoff, Kyle Krieger, Tyler Jandron, they have been impressive in the rotation. Colby Kaiser is also a really strong 3-4 option. Jake striking out 11.1 per 9 innings while walking just 1.6. That's a 7-to-1 walk to strikeout rate, or strikeout to walk ratio. Crazy work there. The bullpen has a drop-off, though, behind top-tier arms like Parker Harm and Garrett Alexander. That's why Paulino is looking good as a good lefty option, and Kyle Johnston showing signs of potential. But beyond them, it's definitely sort of a notable drop-off. This team is definitely slowing, and the lack of lineup and bullpen depth is being a bit more exposed. So they're moving backwards, but not too badly yet, because I think they're not too far gone. It's going to be a C+ for me for the second quarter. Now let's start discussing the top side of this division. The Monarchs look like their familiar front-running selves to start the year with an 18-7 first quarter, getting an A+. But they've really cooled off in the second quarter, going 13-12 and getting caught by Sioux City. Now, I did ignore some red flags in the first quarter, so maybe I shouldn't have given the A+ right off the bat, but hey, it is what it is. A lot of this all has been from a massive amount of contract transfers we've seen. Just in the lineup, outfielders Matt Higgins, Jalen Ortiz, and Isaiah Gilliam, as well as infielder Peyton Holt. They've all had their contracts purchased. In the rotation, it was righties Daniel Martinez and Jackson Goddard. In the bullpen, it was righties Josh Bortka and Tyler McKay, plus lefty Jake Brents. That is a stunning number, man. The offense has impressed so far, trailing only behind Sioux Falls, which is understandable. The lineup is led by Robbie Glendenning and his 11 homers, and the lineup is solid all the way through. Weapons all over. On the mound, Ashton Godot has struggled a bit, but Daniel Martinez, Josh Hendrickson, and Blake Goldsberry, as well as Julian Garcia, have formed into a really nice rotation around him, deserving shout-outs. Signings are definitely making things difficult, as the bullpen is down to just basically Hunter McMahon for high leverage, Jeff Hackinson, and Liam Mendez maybe for consistent mid-leverage innings. I mean, it's a hell of a year getting guys signed. You got to love that. But they build up their expectations in a way where I do have to drop their grade down to a B-, just because, I mean, we're talking on the field here. I love them getting signed. I'm also talking about it. I don't know. It's hard. But B- we're going to go with just based on record. How about that? Keep it simple. Trying to keep things simple, I guess. I mean, Sioux City is fascinating and not necessarily uncomplicated. After a 15-10 start, they got a B+ in the first quarter. I thought they were pretty much maxing out their potential. Then they tacked on another win in the second quarter and caught up to Kansas City, so I'm sure dumb or whatever. Let's talk about that pitching, though. Can we talk about that pitching? Let's talk about the pitching. Oh no, Zach Welleman got signed. What will Sioux City do? Well, they're just going to keep up rolling up offenses with Kyle Marmon, Austin Drury, and Jared Weatherby. Then they're going to add Angel McQuarrie, who's very interesting out of affiliated ball. The bullpen's running about 4 consistent arms deep, which is enough for most weeks in this league, and certainly for playoff series for the most part, so that's good to know. Brett Matthews could make that 5 arms if he throws strikes, adding Felix Cepeda, Chase Jesse, and Nate Gherkin, and Jaron Jackson as well, if we're talking about who the other consistent arms there are. The lineup is weird, because Henry George, Zach Vuletich, and Joshua Day have been good, but not great. And then the rest of the lineup is below league average. But with that pitching staff, they are making it work. All in all, this is a top 1 or 2 team in the league with a bottom 4 lineup. That's a weird, dangerous combo. If the pitching holds up, they could be set. This could also be a disaster by the end of the year. Steve Montgomery has this team exceeding expectations, running with the big dogs. I got to bump their second quarter grade up to an A-. Finally, last but anything but least, we're going from Sioux City to Sioux Falls, talking Canaries. After a slow start, those Canaries got a C- from me in the first quarter. They responded by becoming a menace to society. 18-7 second quarter. Sioux Falls offense is as good as usual, making the most of playing in the birdcage. Josh Raywalt, Calvin Estrada, Jordan Barth crushing balls. Mike Hart and Peter Zimmerman are doing their thing. Scott Combs is above 300, just vibing. But the big deal is Sioux Falls continuing last year's big improvement in pitching. Tom Dorminey is so back right now. I love to see that for him. Tanner Brown's collecting punchies at an alarming rate. That is a thin rotation, but behind them, the bullpen is nasty. Christian Cosby having the wildest year for a Cosby since before the trial. Cole Lalonde, Ryan Richardson, Cody Dallin, they will give you a bad day. And don't you forget about Will Levine, who is gross. Sioux Falls, they are improving where they need to. They're maintaining dominance where they've been dominant, and they're collecting wins. They've done it. They're earning the A+ of the only A+ by the way of the second quarter for the American Association. So how about them Canaries getting wild with it? Well, here we are. End of the second quarter. Good luck on your midterms. If you want to recap here, first of all, less ramen in the bowl to show that time has passed. Secondly, we had an A for the Lake Country Dockhounds, a B for the Chicago Dogs, a C for the King County Cougars. Cleveland picked up a D+, a D from Milwaukee. Gary South Shore picks up an F for the second quarter in a row. Rough. Second quarter in a row, a D+ for Winnipeg, a C- for Lincoln picking up the pace, a C+ for Fargo Moorhead. Kansas City gets a B-, an A- for Sioux City, and an A+ for Sioux Falls. No notes. Like and subscribe. I mean to say that. It's a real show. Lead me to my ramen. This is the worst podcast in the world.